life, right? And then I have my Book of Shadows I started as a teenager. And then I have my little journal. I made these on Amazon really for myself, but they're for sale. So if someone like is like, oh, I really like that journal, buy it. Great, that's awesome. I just like made I make the journals and then put them up and then get them for the kind of that reason. So yeah. So anyway, so we're talking about the autumn equinox and whatever else that you want to talk about. It used to be Mabon. That was the term, I believe it's the term she uses in here, that I, you know, as a young witch in the 90s, we use that term, yeah, Mabon. But most people have kind of rejected that term. There's like tons of conversation about this on Reddit and other places. But basically, Mabon was a god, and some author in the 70s was like, let's just call this holiday Mabon, and had no actual foundation for that. So most people just refer to it as the autumn equinox or the spring equinox now. But yes, as Mabon, the Welsh god who symbolized the male fertilizing principle in the Welsh myths. And so what does that have to do with autumn? Nothing, really. So I live actually in a pretty like movie-esque place for holidays and for seasons, but for a long time I lived in the Mojave Desert, and so autumn just looked windy and cooler. And so if you don't have the whole fall vibe, we can talk about that as well for, you know, altars and magic and stuff. But the main essence of the equinox, regardless of what you call it or what part of the world you are in, is balance, because it's the time of the sun and the moon, the day and the night are equal, right? It's an equinox. And this is science. This isn't just witchcraft, right? And so this is a time when most likely, and a lot of evidence proves to it, our ancestors would have probably had some kind of harvest, right? And they would have taken notice of this balance. And so what I, as a witch, look at this holiday as is twice a year on this wheel of the year, right? We have these 8 holidays. We have these 2 stops that are equal, the equinoxes. Twice a year, pause and ask yourself about balance. And so I think in here I actually have some journal questions for that. So I'll give them to you. Yeah. So, where in your life do you need balance? Simple, right? And this is something you can journal about or you can use cards for. So asking yourself, where in your life do you need balance? And you might want to look at different aspects of your life. You might want to pull different cards for that, right? So we're looking at, we're looking at career, maybe. We're looking at, or career/job. Looking at health. I feel like that's the one that a lot of us need to look at for balance. Looking at family relationships, home life, maybe work to home balance. Looking at maybe spending, budgeting, those kinds of things. So where in your life do you need balance, right? And is it like, I like to always look at too, like spiritually, because as witches, we can get very grounded, like overly grounded sometimes, or overly like in the clouds and like in the cosmos. So making sure our practice is also balanced, right? So that's a question. So where in your life do you need balance? I tend to be overly serious, like overly serious. Tell me you're the oldest daughter of a single mother. Right? I tend to be very serious. I tend to be a taskmaster. I tend to do chore after chore. I need to do all my chores before I can rest. Like it's that kind of mindset, right? Yep, I am too. Okay, so yeah, so that's the mindset I'm constantly kind of trying to remind myself to seek balance. Like you don't have to be everything to everybody, right? Yeah, eldest of 8. Yes, these older kids, I swear. And it's so funny because my son, it's so interesting. My son is the youngest, and he is in a classroom of almost all the youngest. Like hardly any of those kids in that class are the oldest sibling or like a middle sibling. They're almost all the youngest. And It's wild in there. I'm going on a field trip tomorrow. I'm going to bring lots of caffeine. Like, it's a wild time with all these babies in there. Okay. And then some other questions you might want to ask yourself are, what or who do you need to let go of, right? Because when we look at autumn, especially, right? So if we're talking only autumn, the leaves are dropping, right? So is there like a habit you need to let go of? Is there a person? And doesn't mean I'm telling you to like divorce people, but although I have several people in my life right now, I think it has to do with the crazy astrology ride of equinox season, or of eclipse and equinox together, who are like, I'm divorcing. Like, oh, okay, congratulations. Like it's not that unexpected this time of year. So anyway, what or who do you need to let go of? Could be a habit, could be, it doesn't mean you have to like totally ditch this person, but just maybe have some more boundaries with certain people. Could be like, you know what, I signed up to do all this volunteer work, and I really actually don't have the space or the mental capacity for that. So it's a time of letting go. Nature in fall shows us the beauty of letting go. Exactly. We have this little park here where I live in Ashland. It's called Lithia Park, and it's like a mini version of the big, beautiful park in San Francisco. But we have this pond and this one tree that just is like, at one point, just like so orange and red. And it's, the pond will reflect the tree. That's my favorite place to take pictures. Okay, and then the next question, what self-doubts are standing in your way? And this is an interesting question, right? Because a lot of us, if we follow this wheel, we really like tune into the seasons and the way the earth is. We're going to plant seeds, we're going to manifest, we're going to goal set prior to spring. Spring, we're going to really like dig in, make sure we are solidified in those plans, and then we're going to do the work. And then we get to fall, and we want to start to kind of slow down, and we want to look at, you know, what did go well, what served us. I know for me, like I went back and just recently looked at my vision board and all the things I did in spring, and some of it doesn't actually align anymore. Some of it I'm like, no, actually, I'm glad that didn't work out, because that isn't actually the path I'm on anymore. So it's a time to revisit that as well. So we're looking at balance, we are looking at what we're letting go of, and we're looking at, you know, what were the intentions for this year. And it's not a time to get to this point and be like, beat yourself up. Like, oh, I didn't do all the things that I wanted to get to, and now I only have a few months left. It's not like that. Okay, it's more like, okay, these were my intentions. Are they still aligned? Like, is this who I still am? Is this where the direction I'm still going? And if not, what can I let go of? And if so, okay, now we're going into fall and winter, which is dreaming season, right? It's a time to start dreaming. So how can I make these dreams more of a reality? Maybe not necessarily putting in the steps or the actions, because, you know, these months get so busy with holidays, and especially if you have kids or a career or any kind of anything going on, it's stressful to try in these like burr months to get things done that aren't already in place, right? To start new things. It feels harder when the nights get longer and there's more darkness. Like we naturally want to be home. We want to rest. We want to be cozy. We want to drink tea. We want to read books. We want to do restful things. And that goes all the way through winter. And so we're kind of, when we are pushing and manifesting at this time, we're pushing against like what our body wants to naturally do with the earth. We're pushing against like the natural cycle. I'm not saying you can't manifest, right? I'm a manifesting queen. I love a good manifesting activity, but I get to this point and I'm like, there's only so much you can do in a year. There's so much time left. And I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes I would like have to remind myself that I have a whole life, because sometimes I just want to do it all right now. I have these like lists, and it's like I just want to do everything now, and it's like no, you have like a whole life. Like I plan on living at least to be in my 80s. Like I have half a life still. Why do I push or panic? So if you're like that, fall also invites us to like let go of the grip that we're having on life and start to slow down, right? So those are just some basic journaling and kind of tarot oracle card, things you can ask yourself, reflections that you can make. And then as far as magic goes, I think that the equinox is really like, I just put out a spell today here on TikTok using tarot cards for balance. So really anywhere in your life that you need balance. And this could technically be manifesting, because perhaps you've been spending more than you've been saving. And so you want to bring in more money so that that balances out, right? So that could actually kind of turn into that. The other thing is we're celebrating harvests. This is a harvest time, right? And so we're looking at what we have harvested so far for ourselves in this wheel of the year. And this, again, is not a time to be like, oh, I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. This is a time of being grateful for what you did do and what you did receive, and being in that kind of observant place, right? So I like to think of it as like going above and like looking down at your life so far in this year and thinking, okay, this is what went well. This is what I can harvest this year. Like I did this and this came in. And then actually literally harvesting. So if you grow things, I will be cutting down a lot of my herbs to like really far down on the equinox, especially like all my mints and my lemon balm, because they'll grow back super crazy anyway. But my sage and things like that, I'm going to really harvest, because then we're tuning in with what our ancestors would have done too, like the literal harvest, not just like the figurative or the spiritual harvest, right? The other things that I like to think about too around this time is, meditation for balance, yoga for balance. I love Yoga with Adrienne. She has a ton of yoga videos about balance, and they're free on YouTube. I have a meditation about balance for the equinox, also on YouTube, free. And so thinking about that as well, like, how can I bring this into the daily ritual, to the daily life? And then the other thing is, how can I start to slow down? How can I start to wind down? Because summer just really, for most people, it becomes this really, maybe sometimes fun, because a lot of people go on holidays, hopefully I didn't, but hopefully other people did. And they have more kind of freedom, especially if you're a parent. You may feel, actually you do have freedom, but you may feel like you don't because your kids are home. I don't know, kind of goes either way. But summer is so much more energy, because the sun's just shining and we have like all this vitamin D, and we just feel really good. And then as it gets darker and darker, the energy wanes, and that's normal, and we don't need to fight against it. And so it's like, okay, how can I embrace the slowing down? How can I embrace the letting go? A really great easy spell is to get a leaf, go around, walk your yard, walk like a little trail, and find a fallen leaf and take it home, and then write on the leaf things you need to let go of, and then set it on fire carefully and safely, and let it burn, and just, let yourself feel like the tree. Like, I've let that go. I like fire ritual for release. I think it's very powerful. Not everybody does that. So if you didn't want to do that, you could just crumple it out and put it back to Mother Earth, however you want to do that. But it's a very simple one. Okay, so now I'm going to look at, if you have questions, pop them in there. But I'm going to look at my little book of shadows here and share some of the things about this time of year. So I did this when I was like a teenager and young person, and so I did not cite any of my sources. So if you're like, oh, what book did you get that from? I don't know. I would borrow books from friends or from the library, and then I'd take the information and put it in here. And so that's kind of how it kind of came to be. So according to my Book of Shadows, this is a time of year to give thanks. That's the key action. And then to put, like, if you want to have, like, if you're a kitchen witch and you want to have like a feast or foods, you want to have harvest foods for where you live, right? So here I'm in the U.S., we would, especially, like, I live in Oregon, that people grow a lot of like grapes for wine. I would say grapes for me. I just went and foraged elderberries. So elderberries, all of like the trees with like nuts, they're ready. I just saw the big black walnut tree at the park, because ready has all its walnuts. There are, I would say, wine, because wine came from grapes, and apples, because my apple tree is full of apples, right? So it's really not about like what the book necessarily tells you, but what do you see around you? I happen to live where there's a lot of farms. What's being sold at the grocery store that's cheap? Because if it's cheap, it's probably local. It wasn't shipped in from somewhere. So if it's if it's inexpensive right now, it's on sale. Those are fruits and vegetables that are seasonal. And then having those things on your altar and eating those things with some kind of reverence. It doesn't have to be complicated. We just recently in our coven had this mom. I think she's amazing too. She's like a superhero to me. Her husband is in the military. He's gone right now. She works and she has her kids, and she has her kids enrolled in like activities. And she was saying, I don't have a lot of time. What can I do for the full moon? And first of all, I'm just like amazing that she like has the capacity for that, because when my kids were little, I didn't. And so we all gave her ideas, and I just said, something really simple. It's like make yourself a nice warm cup of tea and just go look at the moon and give reverence. And so it's the same idea here. Oh, you're in Washington, yay. Where you make a meal, and it doesn't have to be like super hard. You just want to like put some grapes on a plate and not have to cook anything, and a nice glass of water. Sit down, become present. Think about Mother Earth. Think about the seeds that got planted and the people that planted it. Think about the rain and the water that helped those grapes grow, and the sunshine. Think about the people that picked the grapes, the people that brought them to the store for you. Think about how you went and got them and you brought them home and how they made it here. Think of their journey and give thanks for that journey. It's like we have all these like little things on TikTok and Instagram where it's like these witches are doing these like beautiful things. They're like out in the grapevines and drinking their wine and dancing in the full moon. Like, must be nice. But for a lot of us, like, we're getting the grapes at the store, and that's okay. And so you're bringing them in and you're giving gratitude, because that's what's nice about witchcraft and spirituality, is becoming present and giving gratitude here in the moment for what is. We don't all live in these fantasy worlds. Of course I would love to live in the world of a cord of thorn and roses, but I don't. And so I'm here, and I go to the regular store, and I can give thanks for the life that I do have and for the food that I do have. Okay, that was a lot on that. Okay. Goddesses and gods. All grape and berry goddesses and all fruit and vegetable deities. Right now in our coven, we are celebrating Demeter for the month, because she's the ultimate like harvest goddess. I can't do elaborate rituals. I'm disabled, mama of 2 teens, blue-collar husband. Yeah, regular folks, right? We're not out there living the Stevie Nicks dream. We're regular people doing, having regular houses. And yes, exactly. I have 2 kids. My husband's an educator, and I do this, but I am also like the glue. I do all the stuff at the house for everybody, and I'm like, I swear I'm a personal chauffeur. Like yesterday, I dropped the kids off. My daughter ended up not wanting to walk to school, so I had to circle back and get her. And then bring her to school, then pick her up from school, then bring her back to school. And then I also picked up my son and his friend, because I watched someone's kid on Wednesday, which I love doing, by the way, because she's awesome. And then it's just like back and forth. So it's like in between all of that, then I'm also making TikToks and writing books. It's like, I'm a real person. I'm a regular human being. I don't have anybody here helping me. Anyway, so yes, all of those. Morgan. There's a lot of people that like to work with the Morgan. And let's see, we have gods, Dionysus, obviously, the god of wine, Thoth, Hermes. Thoth and Hermes are super related. Any horned god, right, like Bacchus. And then, of course, like I said, I like to work with Demeter at this time of year. I also work with Hecate, Hecate. I'm not going to get into debate with people about how to pronounce it, because I don't think any of us truly really know. And so I work with her anyway, so I'll be celebrating her. She's a triple goddess, so definitely we'll celebrate like that mother aspect. And then other things to have on like your altar if you want, vines or ivy. We have ivy, it's actually a problem here. So pulling it out and putting it on the altar. The taboos. I always like that. So there were certain taboos in these kind of rituals. Passing burial sites and not honoring the dead. That's a taboo anyway. Like, I grew up Catholic. I don't know if anybody else did, but anytime you pass like a church, you hear an ambulance, or you pass by a cemetery, you crust yourself like every time. And so I don't do that now, but I'll also, if I pass by the cemetery, I'll just like, I honor you. I'll just say that. Hello from Maryland. I'm actually from New Jersey, born and raised. So, and then lived in Southern California, and now I'm in Washington. I need more white friends. Okay. I love that. And then, let's see. Oil and herbs, apple blossom, black pepper, patchouli. Who doesn't love patchouli, right? And then mythical creatures, we have the gnomes, who are the earth spirits. And we also have, for animals, dogs, wolves, birds of prey. Symbols are grapes, wine, vines, garland, gourds, burial. I don't know what I wrote there. Burial something. Rattles, horn of plenty, like the old school Thanksgiving one, and corn and sun wheels. So a lot of times, like what I'll put on my altar now will stay all the way through till like winter solstice, maybe just a few little modifications. So it's like all the harvest symbols, the pumpkins. I just got these today at Dollar Tree. It's actually glass. And so things like that. I'm gonna put like a candle in there. Oh, you're from SoCal too. Nice. And so, yeah, so those are kind of the symbols. I just say with all holidays, keeping it simple and just figuring out like the essence of the holiday. So the essence of this is balance and giving gratitude, harvest, thanks, right? So that's the essence. And then you decide from there what you want to do with, those key words at key time. And definitely never too early to start celebrating those who passed away and ancestors, those ancestor altars and, recognizing and remembering the people who have passed on, because we're starting to get into the kind of dark half of the year. I think I have an illustration, actually, of that. Yeah. So kind of have like a wheel of the year with the different symbols. But yeah, as we get into like the equinox, kind of like this half would be like dark and this half would be light. And not like dark and spooky, unless that's what you want it to be. More like actually literally dark outside and literally light outside. I just want to share one more thing, and if anybody has questions, we'll do that. And then I think we'll conclude our little journey into the autumn equinox. Yeah, so it says autumn equinox marks the second harvest, because the first one was Lunasa, which is August 1st, and it is considered a pagan Thanksgiving. So I think that's really kind of what you can think of it as. And then I definitely agree with this one. Its oils are clove, cinnamon, tangerine, orange. Crystals, gold, pyrite, citrine, rose quartz, moonstone. Symbols colors are red and brown, pine cones, acorns, wheat, dried leaves. And then all their fruits and veggies, like we talked about, pumpkins and gourds. Excited to see you succeeding. Wow, Cedar Middle School, taking me way back. I used to be an English teacher, and I actually opened that school. I got to be part of the opening kind of ceremony of it all and be there for a few years. And I love teaching, which is why I still teach kind of here and in our coven, and I have some classes online on Udemy. But yeah, how nice is that? Thank you for showing up. That's sweet. Any other questions before we kind of conclude? I do want to say that we would love to have more people join our coven. It's cozy, it's international, and it's a fun time in there. I think about those days. Every time I hear a tool, oh yeah, I used to show, I was a wild teacher. I used to talk about art before we went into poetry, and I would show a Tool video. A pretty tame one, if you're familiar with Tool. And also a Tori Amos one. So that's so funny. Where's your coven? We are online. So it's online. It's on something called a Mighty Network. So let's see, how many years ago now? Before I stopped teaching, so maybe 2017, 2018, I really got into yoga with Adrienne. I had been doing yoga for a long time, but I really started practicing doing her videos every day. And she had a Mighty Networks community called Kula, and Kula means community, I think in Sanskrit. And so I was a Kooligan, or a Koolaroo, and I got into the Mighty Network. And it was so cool because at the time I only had Facebook and I didn't really want to be on social media, yet here we are. I actually like being on social media. I think it's fun. And I don't let my kids on here, but I'm on here. And so when you're an adult, it's different. But anyway, so I was in this Mighty Network and it just was so fun because it was private and all the people in there were super loving and kind. And so I decided I wanted to start my own online private social media. And I was like, I'm definitely gonna do a Mighty Network because it's kind of what I knew, And I invited 2 people from the original Kula, which is no longer around, and they're in there. And they're both leaders in there. They both were spiritual and would come to me off and on for advice, and we really kind of bonded. And then I was like, hey, I'm starting this thing, and both of them were like, I don't really identify as a witch. And I was like, that's fine, it's for spiritual people, for pagans, witchy people. And they both joined, and now they're leaders in there, and they answer other people's questions. I was like, well, you said you weren't a witch, but here you are, because there's a little witch in all of us, right? As is said in Practical Magic. But yeah, so our coven is, we have people from all over. We have people from Europe. We have people from South America. We just had someone join from New Zealand. But most of us are in the United States. And so we just kind of meet in there, chit chat. I share articles and it's a good time. It's very cozy because there's not a ton of people in there right now, which is fine. We're growing organically. I'm not out here doing ads and all that stuff. So, but yeah, thank you for asking. It's a fun time, and definitely have some videos on here, and it's on my website. You can definitely use your own time to research it and think it through, because we do only a year commitment. I don't want people coming in and out, so we don't do monthly. But yeah, thank you for asking that, and thank you for joining me. I hope everybody hopefully learned something new today. I think the biggest takeaway is the autumn equinox. We're looking at balance in our life and what that means to us, and we're looking at harvest in our life and what that means to us, and we're looking at gratitude, and not gaslighting gratitude, just true. I'm grateful for my breath. I'm grateful for the bones I have. At the very least, when I'm feeling my lowest low, I will go back to some Louise Hay type stuff and just be grateful for I'm grateful for my bones. I'm grateful for my heart pumping my blood. I'm grateful for my eyes seeing. It's just that kind of takes me out of that. I'm a member and it's helped me. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate you being here and being a member. Is there a link for it? Yeah, it's in my bio, but it's also on my website, which is jennycbell.com. Yeah, there's it's a lot of info on there. So you can really take your time and read through it. There's some questions answered and some little testimonials and stuff. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining. And I hope everyone finds balance. I think, I listened to Daily Astrology with Marcus Barrington, and he's been really talking about Pluto and just the intensity of the astrology. And so many people I talked to right before this full moon were just feeling sick, overwhelmed and anxious. And like I said, I've talked to people who are making huge life changes, moving, divorcing. A lot of people I know are having major health issues. And so if you're feeling those changes and those big kind of feelings, this is time to seek balance, and it's time to give thanks for what is going well. And it's hard because our egos want to focus on all the problems, but thinking about what is going well right now for yourself, and that's your harvest. That's what you're bringing into the next season. So I hope everyone has a great fall or spring, depending on where you live. And there is a spell, a tarot spell. All you need is tarot cards and a candle here on my TikTok. So something to kind of take away with you and maybe adapt to make it your own. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.